10:05, time for free legal advice from our talkback lawyer, David Whiting. 1300 222 774 is the number. 1300 222 774 if you'd like some free legal advice. And David, good morning to you.
Good morning, John.
Any legal news around? I know of one thing, fairly large.
Oh, well, you can go first.
And
then,
spectacular.
John. I know nothing that's large.
Don't you?
No, I had a call from, we had a homework from last week and an interesting case that ran through the Supreme Court. But no, that's it for me.
Oh, okay. No, I have some big legal news. There's been huge upheaval within the Office of the Law Institute of Victoria.
There's been a new CEO appointed about a fortnight ago.
Who has announced a restructure and a significant number of redundancies and involuntary departures, particularly of the senior management. A bit of a clean-out, I'm told.
I have no idea, John.
I do.
Okay.
I've confirmed it with several people. Indeed, I have been I've been waiting for the new director of the Law Institute to come on air and explain it all, because it's a very important organisation. It doesn't regulate the profession anymore. It used to, but it's certainly a very influential organisation and has its tentacles that go a long way.
It does, John. I've always thought that it's lost its direction.
Lost its purpose.
I believe that the Law Institute ought to represent the interests of lawyers, look after them, make sure that their practices are as best as possible, run properly and profitably, because that's where they get their members from. But they put an awful lot of effort into lobbying.
Yep.
And, trekking the corridors of power isn't what I see their job as being.
No, but they've also become a bit marginal to the work of a lot of the profession.
Yes.
And they've kind of ended up being narrower and narrower in their focus. But Adam Orty is the new CEO of the Law Institute, and last week gave a whole bunch of people their marching orders. He used to work at the accountants, the CPA.
CPAs, he was the interim CEO, I saw.
He took over, well, he was one of those who worked under Alex Malley,
yes,
who was famous for being the CEO of the Certified Practising Accountants Association, who kind of captured it and devoted it to his personal enrichment and also his personal promotion. He got them publishing books and buying billboards to tell the world how great he was, and buying paid slots on TV shows where he could interview famous people and make himself into a celebrity, all on the dime of the accountants of Australia, who eventually jacked up.
Took a long time, John.
Took a very long time, and the new boss of the Law Institute used to work with him. So, first of all, I have concerns about that, because that was a disgraceful episode in professional regulation, and if some of those tricks and techniques are being brought to the Law Institute, that's not a good thing. If, on the other hand, he's a completely different creature from what we saw at the CPAs under Alex Malley, then that may be welcome. But to get rid of a whole lot of experienced people all at once is never a good look. You get rid of them over time so that the new people pick up the culture and some of the history from the people who are leaving.
To me, the history is always important. Someone's got to have the corporate memory.
Yep.
And lots of organisations do a clean out and the corporate memory walks out the door with their final paycheck.
And that's the concern. So I've had several people contact me saying, can you do something about this? So I've contacted Mr. Orty and said, can you come on air and talk about it? And that's now Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday today. So after 5 days, I thought, if he's not prepared to respond, I guess I'll have to talk to David about it.
So you'll extend the invitation in
on
a different
air.
way.
So
yes.
As the transcript hits your desk, Mr. Orty, look forward to speaking to you.
Oh, well, let's hope he comes and has a chat to you.
Yep. Other things?
John, there was in a court hearing, you can apply for a summary disposal of a proceeding if you think the other side's claim is hopeless. And in a matter that ran in the Supreme Court last week, the question was in essence, a person turned up on the 23rd of December to take instructions for a will, recorded them on the mobile phone. Recorded it on his mobile phone.
The audio?
Yes.
So intending to make a written will?
Intended to make a written will. The battery runs out on the mobile phone.
No.
And so the question the question that the court needed to consider, was it possible for the audio recording and the solicitor's notes of the balance of the conversation together constitute an informal will?
So, sorry, I presume the will maker died before the written document could be prepared.
This is the 23rd of December. The will maker died 1st or 2nd of January. and the will hadn't been prepared between Christmas and New Year.
Oh, I would have thought there was plenty of time to do an urgent will within that
There would
week.
have been, but that
may
wasn't
have been
the question.
Christmas,
The
New
question
Year.
was, could this be done as an informal will?
Yes.
And the answer was that and one of the arguments that was put was because it was a recording, the person who made the will didn't have the opportunity to review it before authorising it.
Right.
And I'm glad to say that argument didn't get up.
Right.
So it's a matter for trial.
Was there a lot at stake? Is the estate of some value?
I don't think the report mentioned an estate value. It's a matter of principle because presumably the beneficiary's changed and therefore there's two camps with different interests.
Sure, but I'm just wondering whether there's a lot involved or a little bit involved, because you wouldn't bother if it was a small estate or one where the entire value of the estate's going to be eaten up by the disputes.
You wouldn't. But
You'd hate to see the lawyers getting all the money and none left for the beneficiaries.
Well, I don't know. I necessarily agree with you, John, but, it's a nice principle. Look, the answer would be if it's not going to produce a positive outcome, you just don't go to court. It's just not worth it. Well, but there was another case decided in the Supreme Court last week where the estate was worth $25 million.
$25 million?
$25 million, and the will maker had decided that while he'd gone off and got some advice, he could finish it on his own.
And made a mess of it?
So he created 7 testamentary trusts and forgot to name the beneficiaries. So that's okay. So the matter was resolved by the court under an application to amend a will. I too have been, I've had to make an application to amend a will because I had made a mistake in the drafting.
You did?
Yes, yep. And the situation was that my client left her estate to her son. Between the making of the will, we found out that he'd been made bankrupt.
Oops.
So we couldn't give him the estate. So we went in and changed the will, but the problem was that I didn't change it well enough. So I had to go to court and apologise to the court and pay the costs of applying to fix the change.
Yep.
So, yes.
There is the famous story going back now 30 years ago when I taught for a semester at the legal clinic that Monash Law School runs. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the supervisors for, what's a semester, 3 or 4 months.
Yes.
And one of our students went out and, you're sitting in the back office and the students go out and they see the clients and they come back and say, oh, we've got a car crash or we've got a divorce mm-hmm. or we've got a will. And you talk them through and you teach them how to do all these things and you almost never take over because that's bad form. Mm-hmm. And someone whose name might rhyme, I won't do this, someone whose name is Bill, mm-hmm. I won't say his surname, but if you're listening, good to hear from you, was seeing an elderly woman who English was not her first language and she had considerable difficulty getting to and from the office, mm-hmm. to the clinic at Springvale Legal Service. And Bill proudly came back to the supervisor's room where Simon Smith and I were the teachers and said, I've got this elderly woman, she doesn't speak much English, she walks on a walking frame, she's very frail. I've taken her instructions for the will and I've done I've learned everything you've taught me about how we have to be more friendly to mm-hmm. and helpful. I've got the blank form and I got her to sign so she doesn't have to come back a second time.
Excellent, John. Excellent. Yes.
And Simon and I looked at each other and suppressed a smile and Simon just quietly said to me, do you want the house or the bank accounts? And I said, yeah, I think I'll have the house and you can have the bank accounts. And suddenly you could see on Bill's face, it dawned on him what he'd just done.
Yeah. Life's a learning experience, John. 30 years in, it's still a learning experience.
Yeah, he won the prize for the biggest idiot of the course that semester. Called the Slade Trophy for people who want to know.
And John, last week we had Cecile from Montmorency whose dog was attacked she had a greyhound and it was attacked by another dog that broke free from its leash.
Yep.
And the question was she was upset that the council didn't take the dog. And the difficulty is it depends, there are sets of rules as to whether it's a dangerous dog or a restricted deed dog. And if it's none of those, then you only have the right to seize the dog if there's a conviction on the basis that there's a serious injury to a person or animal. So in the circumstances, while she's got a civil action for damages, she doesn't have the right to have the dog seized.
The estate in the informal audio will, the incomplete audio will, the estate is $1.7 million.
It's worth a discussion, John.
So it's certainly worth having a bit of a look at it. Let's get to today's callers with David Whiting, our talkback lawyer. Stephen in Cheltenham is first. And Stephen, good morning. How can David help?
Good morning, John and David, and thank you very much indeed for taking the call. David, I have to begin by admitting my wrongdoing. I walk my beloved dog down a particular route. There is a house on that route which is very odd. Half of it no longer exists. It's simply a bare frame.
Yes.
And it looks as if it's in the process either of demolition or renovation.
And you can't work out which, is that right?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
Now, my wrongdoing has been that seeing the property in that state, on 2 or 3 occasions I have dropped a bag of my dog's droppings.
Yes.
Over the fence there.
Yep.
Over the fence?
Over the fence, yes.
Into the garden?
This property.
Of this property, yes.
Yes, indeed so.
Not into the
Indeed
rubbish
so.
bin or anything?
No, John, I am
Behind the rose bushes.
sinner.
Keep
No.
going, Steve.
Okay. Now, the property owner mounted a camera on the property and took, obviously,
He took
video
pictures
of
of
me.
you, yes?
Yes,
Yep.
doing this on one occasion,
Yep.
and then put up a poster, still image, laminated poster.
Wanted, Stephen from Cheltenham.
Yeah.
Oh, more dramatic than that, David. It was dog poo banded, beware.
Yes.
And
That's you.
I'm a bad man. I'm
Yes.
throwing myself on the mercy of the court here.
Yes.
Now, folk, that went up on the electricity pole outside the house.
Outside that house or your house?
Outside that house,
Yes.
I took one down. He put another one up. Blah, blah, blah.
Sorry, you took down his sign as well?
I did, John. I'm beyond hope. I should be pilloried and publicly flogged.
Stephen, how can we help you?
What's happened, David?
You want a
is
better
that-
picture?
It's not my most flattering one, I'll admit. But look, what has happened is that another of these posters has appeared on the telephone or the electricity pole outside the village where I live.
Yes.
So I'm quite, I've discussed this informally with people, and they've said, there's no right to take an image of you because you were on the footpath and, you can't run a surveillance camera which takes footage outside the bounds of a property. We've got the fact that it's appeared outside the village where I live, and there's beware aspect to it.
Yes.
So, Stephen the Dog Poo Bandit, are you saying you think it's unfair that your picture is being put up around the community?
No. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you want done?
Well, I'm asking whether there's any basis for my doing anything on the strength of the fact that this person has now put up a picture outside the village where I live.
Have you been to see them and say, I'm really sorry, I didn't think it mattered and I'll never do it again?
I haven't.
And here's a bottle of wine for all your trouble and to compensate you for the laminated photographs and posters.
I haven't as yet, John. I was a little
recommend that
bit.
rather than taking a
that's
litigious
where I
approach.
go.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems, look, the privacy principles won't apply to that person. And I would have said his sole justification for putting up the camera is to catch people who are dropping dog poo bags over the fence.
Or stealing things off a building site, which happens
Yes.
all the time too.
So you've got to argue that that the camera was unreasonable.
Okay, not a problem. And
Be gracious.
there's no basis for concern, David, based on the beware bit and the fact that it's appeared outside where I live.
Well, I mean, my view would be you're not a bandit because you haven't stolen anything. I mean,
look, I do object to that.
I mean, you could be the dog poo Robin Hood, right?
No.
But I would, I just don't want to run that argument. My view would be knock on the door and apologise.
And box of chocolates or a bottle of wine. And if they're reasonable people, you can have a laugh about it and go, yeah, sorry, didn't think it mattered. Now I realise it did and it was my mistake. But, I mean, you're going to be neighbours with these people apart from anything else, Stephen, long term.
Indeed so, John. I don't believe in making mountains out of molehills, but there were a couple of minor points there I was concerned about.
Yep.
And you two gentlemen, as always, have put my enfeebled mind at rest.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah. All righty.
Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen.
Good on you. Michael in Richmond's next. Morning to you, Michael. What do you want to confess to?
Good morning, gentlemen. Not confessing to anything. I have a contract with a publisher. The book is out of print. The e-book is still available, but the publisher has a percentage of rights over any possible film. They do nothing. They've done nothing to help. There's no clause in the contract to say when it will end. Can I get rid of them?
Sorry, so the film rights were not limited within a certain time frame?
No.
Okay.
No
general
mention of time on anything.
The general proposition is that in signing the contract, you've given away or disposed of some of the film rights, so it keeps going. Well, I would have said until the film comes out of until it comes out of copyright.
But it's quite common, is it not? And I've been through this myself, Michael. If you can forgive me for adding to it, you can buy back any rights that you signed away. So you could approach the publishing company and say, "Oh, look, can I pay out any future benefit of this contract? Can we bring it to an end? And here's I don't know how many copies of your book you sold, but here's
8,000.
Okay, here's $500 or whatever it might be for any residual rights, and I'll take back what I gave you in the contract."
Thank you.
Is that something?
No, I think that's a great idea, John. Yeah,
I've done that myself.
Yep.
Take back
So when's
the
the film
residual
coming?
rights.
No. The answer would be you want to bring whatever right. What you want to do is buy from the publisher whatever rights the publisher retains in your book.
Yep.
And not just in the manuscript, but in whatever might happen.
They may give it to you for nothing, Michael. You should ask, can we just clarify whether there's any ongoing interest that you have in this, and if not in writing, can you confirm there isn't?
Yeah.
Or you might have to pay them something to compensate them for the notional loss that they're having.
Thank you for your help. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. People often enter into agreements that are open-ended.
Yes.
It's a common mistake, common trap. And it's on the other hand, if with good advice, it's
Yes,
avoided.
but you then can't go and do want to do a second edition, it just makes life difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you don't do it while there's still some active interest, but say if it's 5 years since the book came out and nothing else is going on, you say, "Oh, by the way, can we move this along a little bit?" Adrian, where's Capel Sound, Adrian?
Oh, it's the name change for Rosebud West.
I've never heard about that one before.
Oh, yes. Well, don't go and get down there.
Oh,
But anyway,
Rosebud
it's the official
West.
place. It's Google. It's in Google Maps now.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, good morning,
Is
David.
that the
and John.
gentrified end of Rosebud?
Yeah, that's it. So that doesn't get into the crime statistics, I suppose.
Is this like Deep Dean instead of Kew?
Yeah,
Sorry,
something like that.
stop right there. Deep Dean is part of Baldwin.
Oh, Baldwin.
It's on the wrong side of Burke. On the other, sorry, not the wrong side. It's on the other side of Burke Road.
How can David help you, Adrian?
So general questions on building covenants.
Yes.
But I'm in an estate of about 26 lots, so it's not very large.
Yep.
And there's covenants on the building titles. And I want to know, can someone get an exemption from a covenant without notifying the other members, the other owners of the properties that are covered by that covenant?
There is a process for making an application to council for the removal or variation of a covenant. Mm-hmm. You will probably find that there'll be an obligation on you to advertise your application.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're shot.
Well, it's not me. It's basically a neighbour.
Yeah.
And I expect fully that he's built without any exemption.
Oh, so he's already built.
Oh, this is a couple of years back.
Then you
yeah.
could make an application for it to be pulled down if you really wanted to.
I know. I don't want to go down that line
Yep.
necessarily unless it's too much of an aggravation because, like everyone else, there's a few people on the estate that would probably have a little things different to what is
Yes.
by the rule of law, and I don't
I've
want to
always
upset
encouraged-
everybody else on the estate.
I've always encouraged people to apply for variations of the covenant, not their removal. Mm-hmm. So if you apply for a variation, you come along and say, "Look, I'd really like a tin roof rather than
Yep.
a tile roof."
Well, this is in terms of basically the whole estate has no front fences, and
Yes.
it's part of a covenant. And someone's built a very large front fence with automatic gates and turned the property into
A fortress.
a fortress. Yes.
So, now, Adrian, you could do something about it. What you would do is you would do your title search of your neighbour's property and see if the covenant is on it. Because it's possible, every now and then I come across a subdivision where they've done the covenants on just about everything, but not everything.
Now, the title search, how would I approach a title search?
You can do a title search online, land registry, Google Land Use Victoria, and there's a process for doing it. And they're at 2 Lonsdale Street in the city if you want to go into town.
Or there are professional services who can do it for
Yes.
you. Not a lot of love for Stephen in Cheltenham, the dog poo chucker, the dog poo bandit.
Yes.
Just go and say sorry. Still doesn't realise what he's done is wrong, even though he says he's guilty. Ridiculous, says Chrissy in Callista. I'm sick to death of phantom dog pooers. And $300 fine from the EPA, $800 fine from the local council for not picking up your dog poo or dumping it wrongly. So he's getting out lightly if indeed he just takes your advice, David, and goes and does what you recommended.
Let's still do it, John.
Yes. David in Hoppers Crossing. Morning, David. Hello, David. David in Hoppers Crossing.
Sorry. Hello.
David.
Just in time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. Yes, just a quick one. My mother will probably pass away in the next 6 or 8 months, and she's got quite a bit of money that I haven't disclosed to my wife.
Yes.
I'm thinking of my wife and I will probably separate soon. If she passes away...
Especially if she recognises your voice
I hope you're not David from Hoppers Crossing then.
No, I think that's why I didn't answer when I called.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just wondering if this happens, if she passed away soon without me separating from the wife, is my wife entitled to that money?
No. No, the answer is she's not entitled to the money, but when the court divides up what you do share, then the court may take some account of the financial resource that you've got, which is your inheritance from your mum. So is she entitled to a percentage of it?
So
whatever. There's rarely a 50-50 after a long...
So it was going to be 50-50, but if one party is suddenly enriched with an inheritance and the other party is not doing very well, the court can say, well, hang on, actually...
We might make it 60-40 or 70-30 of what you have. So it's a financial... Yes. Yep. So it's not included in the pool, but it's an external financial resource that you've got.
Likewise, if you win the lottery a week afterwards, David.
Oh, I'd be very wary about that one, John, because the assumption is that the money you used to buy the lottery ticket was made during the marriage.
Oh, okay. Has that ever been tested?
I think it might have been.
Really?
Right. So the answer was I bought the ticket with matrimonial property.
Therefore, each party has a share in the process.
It's a better argument, isn't it, John?
I don't know about that. So, David, does that answer all your questions?
Well, just so there's a number of properties we have amongst us that I'm just wondering, so if we split those, would they be 50-50? There's no children involved.
How long are you married, David?
Too bloody long. But I'm just wondering...
Is that too bloody long measured in weeks or years?
Well, yeah, it seems like...
So look, the longer you're married, the closer you get to 50-50.
Right. But if there's no children involved and we go 50-50 and I have this...
David, I have a line that I use, and in a matrimonial situation, think of the goose and the eggs. Somebody gets the eggs, the house, the property, but the other person continues to earn a good income. So I'm not taking any of your income, but you're giving away some of the assets that you've accumulated with it. I don't want to even attempt to work out what an appropriate property distribution would be in the few minutes we've got available. Go and see a lawyer, list your assets when you got together, your wife's assets when you got together, and your current pool, including superannuation and values of properties and all of those things, and then you'll get some idea of what an appropriate asset split would be.
But you have to take into account the money that I'll get.
No, you don't. I mean, let's be really silly here. Let's assume you've got $10 million between you and your mum leaves you $1.5 million.
Yes.
At $5 million each, I would not expect that your mother's bequest to you would be touched at all. All right?
No.
But if you've got combined assets of $100,000 and your wife is not able to work and stayed home and looked after you for umpteen years, then I would come along and say of the asset pool that was there, she'd probably get the majority because you've got this bucket of money on the side.
So it all depends on the context, but if indeed you've got multiple properties, David, you're going to need some specialist and expert individual legal advice anyway, aren't you?
And the other thing, David,
You're
is you
not
can
going to
do...
agree to a property split based on what David's advice might be in 2 minutes on Talkback Radio.
And you can do a binding financial agreement now. So if you're still talking to the lady you're still married to, you can enter into an agreement now that accommodates your separation.
All right, I hope that helps you, David. Can we squeeze in Phil in Warrnambool before we run out of time? Good morning, Phil.
G'day, lads. Monday morning, my shed got broken into
Yes.
and a bit of stuff pinched. They even pinched me hat.
No.
Yeah, a world-famous hat.
World famous.
40 million views, thanks to you guys at ABC.
On your hat?
Yeah.
So what day should we read the Warrnambool Standard to see?
Yeah, it's in tomorrow's Standard.
Okay, I'll look tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah, and I want to put cameras up
Yes.
so it doesn't happen again, or I can catch whoever's done it.
Yep.
Do I have to put signage up about the...
No, you don't need to put signage up. The expectation is, however, that you will not be, you'll not put the cameras up for the purpose of, in a sense, as a deterrent rather than for observation. Right? And the aim would be that if it takes pictures outside your property, they're reasonably appropriate for the purpose, that is for the security. So if you put a camera on your front door that takes a picture of the front door across the road, that's not on. But if it takes a picture of it's primarily focused at your front gate, that's fine.
All right.
Good.
All right.
Done well.
Thank you.
Did you lose a lot, Phil?
Apart from the hat.
Well, I lost $500. I took it in my wallet. But I don't know if you've seen a wombat story about the wombat on the bridge down here that the artist drew.
No.
Nah, well, you guys done it, local ABC did. And it got up to 40-something million views, so the hat was famous.
Okay, radio. But what were there motorbikes, cars, tools? What was next?
No, just me wallet and me hat.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really weird. That's a very famous hat. Good luck with that, Phil. I've got so many text messages, not just, I might say, David, about dog pooers, but also about tickets bought with matrimonial funds that go on to win lotteries. Family law lotto case was resolved in the ACT Supreme Court. The question was, the ticket bought with shared funds equal to shared prize, says Sam, and he says it did. Well, I'm assuming if I read a slightly...
No, I think that's quite logical.
Yeah. Question was, ticket bought with shared funds equals shared prize, and Sam's texting in just that much. I think that... Oh, here it is. Oh, another one. A recent family court decision included an inheritance bequeathed 4 years after separation. Was it in the asset pool? The issue is the amount the other spouse receives depends on the circumstances. So that's different. It's not the lottery one. That's the inheritance one. There we go.
Thank you, John.
Clearly a matter of great concern, and I won't read out the...
So borrow the money from your sister to buy the raffle ticket. Okay.
Yeah, right. The enraged correspondence from people about people who dispose of dog poo inappropriately.
Yep.
I will acknowledge your various text messages, but I won't be able to read them all out. David, see you again next week.
Thank you, John.
Our talkback lawyer, David Whiting, helping you with free legal advice.